Welcome back, everyone, to day 13 of learning SQL. We've been at this for 13 days in a row now, learning something new every single day. Today, we're going to talk about the NULLIF function. So the NULLIF function accepts two arguments, and of those two arguments, if they're equal, it's going to return null. If they're not equal, then it's just going to return the first argument that you provide. So if we go ahead and just say select NULLIF, and then we provide two arguments that are equal, like 1 and 1, and we run this, it's going to return null. But if we change the first argument to say like the integer 5, and then we have 1 as the second argument, and we run this, it's going to return 5 because the arguments are not equal, so it's just by default going to return the first argument. Now you may be asking yourself, where would we actually use this? Well, one particular example where this could be really, really handy is in any columns where you're going to encounter a 0 and you have to use division for the denominator of a particular expression. And so if we ever have a chance where we would maybe be dividing by 0, we could use the NULLIF function to replace that 0 with null, which would ultimately just fill in that column with null. So let me show you an example. So let's go ahead and select everything from our inventory table. And this is just a little inventory table that I created for this example. And as you can see, we have 3 different ingredients: milk, honey, and bread. So these are the ingredients that we ordered this week for our inventory. And you can see that we ordered 8 units of milk, 10 units of honey, and 0 units of bread. And then we have the total amount of money that we spent to purchase those units. So $24 for the milk, $40 for the honey. And because we ordered no bread, we spent $0 on the bread. So if we were given the task to calculate the individual unit cost, we could do that pretty easily, right? We could take the total amount spent divided by the units that we actually purchased, and that would give us the price per unit. However, we're going to run into an issue because when we get to this last row here for bread, we spent $0 on bread, and then we're going to try to divide by the unit count, which is 0. And that's going to give us a division by 0 error within SQL. So what we need to do is we need to actually replace this 0 with null. And that's where we can use that NULLIF function. So let's go ahead and run this without NULLIF, and then we'll run it with the NULLIF function to show you that it actually makes a difference. So to build out this query, we're going to go ahead and select the name of the item. And then we're going to go ahead and select the total spent divided by the unit count. And we'll go ahead and label this as unit price, this particular column. This is going to be from our inventory table. And if we go ahead and run it as is, and we run this, as you can see, we get a division by 0 error. But if we go ahead and use the NULLIF function around our unit count, and I need to add another parenthesis here, we go ahead and use this NULLIF function. The first argument is going to be unit count, and the second argument is going to be 0. So anytime we encounter a unit count that's not 0, we will go ahead and just get the first argument because it'll be something like 5. So 5 is not equal to 0, so we're just going to return 5. But in the instance that the unit count is 0, then it's going to match the second argument, which is 0, which will then return null. So then we'll have total spent divided by null, which the result of that will just be null. So then we can go ahead and execute the entire query, and in that unit price spot, we're going to just have null instead of an error. So let's go ahead and run this. And as you can see, milk, we have a unit price of 3. Honey, we have a unit price of 4. And for bread, we just have null because there was nothing in the bread inventory, so we can't calculate the individual unit price. So I hope this video was helpful. Catch us back for tomorrow, day 14, where we'll learn even more SQL. See you then.